How are we now? And welcome to the shed. Bit more tarting up being done. This time on the radiator. I was going to try and polish it because I knew it was aluminium, but looking at the state of the matrix, I decided just to get rid of all the corrosion off the sides and then use some high temperature paint just to make it look a bit better. I have been looking at some brand new radiators, pattern ones obviously. I'm not going to buy genuine Suzuki, but for the time being I'm going to see how this bike goes. If I'm thinking I'm keeping it, then I might just treat it to a brand new radiator, but for the time being we'll stick with this one. I was really surprised that the bolts holding the fan on weren't rusted and they came out really easily. Gonna replace those with new ones anyway. Now once again we were out with the wire brush on the drill. I'm quite surprised what a job this does, to be honest with you. It seems to cut through the corrosion and the paint really easily, and I still do think that a polished radiator will look really smart on this bike, but at the moment bank account says no. Right, so with most of the corrosion and paint off, we were down to the fairly good stuff, so out with the 120 grit sandpaper and just give it a quick once over to get rid of most of the high spots. Then I gave it a couple of coats of high temperature paint. It's quite nice. We're sort of in winter at the moment, but the temperatures are really good. We're in the teens, so didn't have any issues with the paint drying. Left it overnight, went back out into the shed and had a look at the results and refitted the fan. It's not fantastic, but it's going to serve a purpose, and I know that it works and I know that it doesn't leak, so it's good enough for me for the time being. Another issue on the bike has been the gear change. Me being a bit of a knob, went and snapped off the gear change lever when I was tipping the bike over to take the engine out. So I've ordered a new gear change lever which has come. Unfortunately that needs a little bit of work, so I'm going to have to sort that out as it's about 1/2 mil too thick. And the gear change shaft was also that rotten that it snapped off when I was trying to remove it from the gear change lever. Can't buy pattern ones, and you've got a left hand thread at one end, a right hand thread at the other, so I couldn't make one, so I've had to order a genuine Suzuki one. And this is what happens sometimes when you buy pattern parts. While I was at my local Suzuki dealer, thought I'd buy myself some new spark plugs, so I made sure I blew out the plug holes before I took the old plugs out, and then treated it to a new plug, fitted the cap. I always think it's best to do it now before you fit the radiator, because it doesn't half make it one pig of a job when you have to try and fit the spark plug with the radiator in place. You spot the difference. Okay, back to the big job in hand, which is the gear change lever. First little video was the original one, which moves nice and freely, and the second one's the new one, which once it's all tightened up doesn't move at all. So it was out with the cordless drill once again, this time with a sanding cum grinding wheel on the end of it, and started grinding away. When I checked on the verniers, I'd needed to take around about 0.5 millimetre off, but I thought I'll take a little bit more off just to be on the safe side. Once I'd got it something like, got the file out and filed it all nice and flat. Kept test fitting all the time, made sure, and eventually got it sorted. Now, it was at this point where things started to go wrong. I was going to do a video on remounting the radiator, as well as fitting both the foot pegs, but the battery on my camera packed up. So I thought, I'll use my mobile, and it wouldn't take videos because that was only about 10%. All very strange. So unfortunately, you've just got photographs. Next job on the car's sorting the brakes out. I'd already had a quick faff with the calipers from an earlier episode, and I'd ordered some new banjo bolts, so I thought, well, seeing as we're moving ahead, I'll fit the calipers onto the fork and then fit me super cheap braided hoses. Started cleaning up the master cylinder, and this is where the first problem arose. The screw in the master cylinder just kept spinning round. How many times do you have to be told, pack it in? Copyrights! Right, sorry, back to what we need to be doing. Master cylinder, in the vise, out with my drill, and drilled the screw head off so that I could get to the nut inside on the master cylinder itself. Taking it easy, obviously, as you can see, a little puff of smoke, so I don't want to get the master cylinder too hot because it will melt. I do like to use all the original parts if I can. If I can't, then obviously we have to buy new or second hand. But it's nice to keep all the bits and pieces as original as possible, and it also keeps the costs down at the end of the day. It's just like recycling, really. Back onto the recycling theme, and I keep every single nut bolt washer that I don't use, or if I've bought new, to replace any rusty ones. They're always kept, they're never thrown away, and this time it actually came in really useful because I found a screw with a nut, so that'll do nicely. Quick spray of GT85, nice clean cloth, and clean the master cylinder up. Get rid of all the oil and everything else that had been over it over the past few years, and brought it up quite well, to be honest. Then fitted the new nut. And fitted it to the bike. So hey presto, we've got a nice clean master cylinder. Total outlay, absolutely nothing. I always like to, where possible, clean all the threads up on every bolt that I put back in, and this basically just goes to show how bad some of these bolts are before fitting them back onto a bike. As said previously, the weather's not too bad at the moment, so I thought I'd treat the SV, brought it outside, put all the bits and pieces on just to see what it looks like, and now I'm actually not too sure about the look of it. So I sat for a while and contemplated, and then thought, well, I'll fit the braided hoses with the new banjo bolts. Give me a bit of time just to look at it, and again, I'm still not too sure. So, after all this deliberation, might be going in a different direction. And this is where I had another problem. M10 by 1.25 on the calipers for the banjo bolts, and when it came to fitting it onto the actual brake lever, they're M10 by 1, so I need another banjo bolt. When I dragged it out of the shed, she was bare, so I thought I'll do a little bit of a video walk round, and I am absolutely astonished at how different it looks from the day I brought it into the yard. I have to admit, I am one very, very happy little puppy. So, on that note, and with these images, I'm going to love you and leave you. Say thanks for listening, thanks for watching, thanks for the support, and we'll see you on the next instalment.